You got there, dude. That's nice.
That's a perfect thank you. Greetings. We're live with Steven from the BG Cast. I'm chilling out at Green Lake Park. I was gonna go swimming before it gets cold, but the water is currently toxic, so that didn't work out. But
Oh man.
also, just it's a beautiful day, and something that you have inspired me to do better at in life is you've inspired me to be better about going out into nature.
Awesome, dude.
Just when I'm feeling really dark and sad and whatnot, I think, Stephen would tell me to go get out into nature. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And it was just, it's been a crazy few weeks, which was for me why I reached out to you to say, hey, let's just have this stream. There's a lot of things that have gone on, and hopefully we can touch on a few.
Oh, definitely.
But ultimately, or not ultimately, but what we were talking about right before we went live was land. I'm so locked in and focused because I believe the future solution involves land. And you were just telling me about 35 acres near you that you are interested in potentially grouping with other people in acquiring. I'm ready. I'm good to go. Well, not ready right now. In 6 months, I'll have probably 5 to 10 grand that I can
Okay.
contribute. And so I'd be open to Colorado. I'd be open to Colorado, and this is, I think, a call to action for other people because I know there's other people in like your community and in my community that have the same mission. But one of the reasons I've titled this spiritual leadership, it's titled Spiritual Warfare and Spiritual Leadership, is because I think you and I are going to be pioneering some of the next stages of what we're going through. I'm gonna just go on a little bit more. I
Yeah,
respect
let me-
you also because during the most recent psyops that have happened, you've been consistently telling people to look at the bigger picture and to not pick a side. And you are a leader in this movement, and I want to also be a leader in my own way. And land is the solution. So we'll get into the psyops later, but let's talk about land. So you said there's 35 acres for how much? 35,000?
35,000, man. And here in Colorado right now, that's kind of it's unreal. I call it, like I was telling you before we hopped on, it's a diamond in the rough because Colorado has blown up so much. So I moved here in 2015, and it was on the precipice of kind of blowing up to what it is today. But that was originally the plan that my wife and I had when we moved out here. We wanted to get some land and we wanted to build a house. We wanted to build our own house and have animals, have ducks, cows, all kinds of things, man, and a nice fresh garden. And even though we work towards that goal because of the influx of people coming here, especially Southern Californians, and I've been having a joke right now that we need to put a ban on Southern Californians here in Colorado. Northern Californians are fucking awesome. They're on the same level that you and I are on. You know what I mean? We're like, yo, dude, they're like, get away from me. I'm off in my like woods nest just hanging out, man. I'm out here in the wilderness hanging out. And I've noticed everybody I've talked to from NorCal seems to be on a similar vibe that you and I are on, but it's like it's all the SoCal people, dude. And they come out here, they screwed up their state, and then they come out here and then they want to vote in the same stuff that screwed up the state of California here in Colorado. And I'm like, and it just is a lapse in logic to me because I'm like, you left your state because you fucked it up. And now you're coming here and you want to fuck this up. And I'm like, no, dude, you need to kind of stop. But nonetheless, I'll digress and say, so with the influx of people coming in, land prices shot up, all of that. And so it kind of, for a little bit, was seeming really kind of hopeless. I was like, man, I'm going to have to either go very far north or far south. But today, because I've been talking with people about this, dude, just like you have, and I've been putting the energy out into the ether, we do need to, because now's the time for action, man. Like we've been talking about this for years on end at this point. And we have to start laying some sort of foundation at this point. And this is kind of where it begins. There's a few things actually I want to talk to you about as far as, laying down a new foundation. So we'll start with the land first. So I found 35 acres for $35,000, which is unreal. Especially in the area it was. It was like a little diamond in the rough. I immediately put my name down on the list and was like, dude, yeah, I was like, dude, I need to go check this out. You know what I mean? And realistically, dude, and even like we were talking about before the show, like let's say you get 15, 20 people together, right? That's going to be, and that's enough people for that amount of land to where you can have a decent bit of space between each other. You guys aren't going to be, you can have your privacy. I don't want to make the land a Stepford village and have 35 houses on each acre. You know what I mean? I want us to have space. I want us to have, the ability to have our own livestock, our own gardens, our own, whatever we want to do on the plots. So that's why I was thinking about realistically like 15 to 20 people, or, including with the families, like if it's a family of four, that can count for, like the four people and things like that. And, or if the kids are young, maybe we can accommodate some more people, and maybe do upwards of like 20 to 25 depending on what's going on. The variables are there, but so you're looking at like 1,000 an acre, which you don't really get those prices in Colorado unless you're going like really far down south or you're going really far up north. So I mean, so these opportunities are going to start presenting themselves to us, especially those people like us who are on the New Earth frequency, who are on the New Earth vibration. We're looking to start setting the foundation. We're done talking about it. We know what's going on. We see the patterns of what's going on. I mean, shit, something just happened 2 weeks ago or a week ago now, for everything that's going on. With Charlie Kirk. And so now it's the time, guys. It's only going to continue unless we start to pull away. And that's the number one thing. The other cool thing, dude, I've been doing also too, that it's kind of my little bit of a brainchild on the side right now, but I've talked with Chris Matthew about it. He's on board. I sure as hell know you're going to be on board. I've talked with some other people about it and they're on board. We need to start making entertainment for New Earth, because this is the thing, man. Look at what's happened to arts and culture, dude. They have robbed the arts and music and everything from us, man. Music isn't even music anymore. It's this syndicated bullshit that's bombarding you with ELFs. It's basically it's hypnotizing you into a docile state. Nobody plays their own instruments anymore unless it's in the underground. Of course, there are bands that still do that, but they're all underground. And nobody writes their own music anymore, man. They've destroyed a very very important part of human civilization. So I've kind of come in and I'm like, well, that's that's the response I get from a lot of people, because I went off on people for getting too roped into the Sydney Sweeney psyop. And and everything that came along with it, and their response to me is like, what, we're not allowed to laugh? And I'm like, no, dude, you can laugh. Like, you're allowed to laugh at it. It's when you absorb it into the center of your attention and it's the only thing you post memes about for the next 2 months. This is what they want you to do. They're doing these look over here events to distract us from what's really going on. Kind of the same thing with what happened with Charlie Kirk, regardless of whether it was staged, real, or whatever. Okay. The very next day, while everybody was up in arms, Congress was trying to pass these different laws and bills on like hate speech, trying to like, kind of take away the First Amendment from us and stuff like this, dude. And this is the pattern, guys. Every time there's a huge event, 9 times out of 10, they're trying to get you to look in that direction while they do shit behind our backs. You know what I mean? I'll digress. I kind of went off there, but New Earth Entertainment is something I'm trying to start, man. I already know New Earth musicians. Frank Castle, even Diana from Transcending Ascension, man, and all of these people who are making this spiritual music, this spiritually enriched music that's not bombarding you with psyops, propaganda, and subconscious initiations to a dark frequency. Then I have my friend the Lion, David. He's making like spiritual comic books. He even made a spiritual movie that he got awarded best director at the New York. I don't know if it was I don't think it was Tribeca, but it was another film festival in New York. His movie got best director. You know what I mean? And so like right now is the time, guys. You know, I'm even gonna say it right here. I'm putting out a call to all the conscious creators, man. You know, who, whether you're doing arts, whether you're doing music, whether you're a comedian. I know a conscious comedian out here in Colorado. You know, whether you make films, whether you make, you know, comics, whatever it is, man. Now this is how we break away from the system, man, because you know how important laughter is to us. You know how important music is, art, all of these creative things that we're here and we're meant to do, that AI is taking over and doing for us now. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be doing that. That was the original thing about AI. Everybody was like, yeah, AI is going to take care of all our work so we can be more creative. No, now AI is taking our work and our creativity from us. So, you know, this is how it begins, dude. And that's why I knew you would really dig this, because it's going to be called New Earth Entertainment, and your PSYOP free entertainment channel. And that's what it's going to be, because this is how it begins, dude. We have to start getting the balls in motion, or the wheels in motion. I said balls, but the wheels in motion. And, you know, and this is how it starts, bro.
I love all of that. And one thing I love about our conversations is that we can kind of trade back and forth these long, just like, they're not rambles, but like we can go on long walks of points, and they all sort of connect. And so I want to try to do the same thing. I agree with everything you said. I think like 5 years for some reason is like the number in my head, where, you know, in 5 years, that's when we will be sort of mostly disconnected from the matrix. And so having a timeline, like a specific timeline, is good from a goal accomplishing perspective, because, you know, it's tangible. You can look at it, you can monitor progress and everything. And so, you know, we have the next 5 years to, with the New Earth Entertainment, connect with the people who I like to say are coming with us. The New Earth Entertainment. I love that slogan that you came up with, your PSYOP free entertainment. So I really want to explore that more. But first, I want to talk about how you mentioned know people from Southern California. One key aspect of voluntary association is the fact that you can not include people in your community. And what we're trying to build is an intentional community. Everyone is intentionally selected and part of the community, and how I see it progressing, you know, beyond the 5-year mark. So we've got the 5-year goal of getting the land and getting the infrastructure established. But you and I don't have kids yet, and I'm pretty sure you want children, right? And so,
I do.
you know, in 5 years, I think that's when we're really going to be starting our momentum and our families. And so we've got the infrastructure established. But then after the next 5 years, what's after this 5 years, and we should be expanding. So we start with the 35 acres that you mentioned, and then we start buying as much as we can around the area and just expanding, because we are going to expand our families and we're going to bring more people into the community. And so I love that we've got a 5-year plan, but then it's built with the ability to continue to progress, and we don't have to focus too much on those details yet, because that's, you know, I think in 5 years when we're just going to be thriving, dude. I see it for us. The last 5 to 10 years for me personally have been very difficult, but in 5 years, it's going to be like, I can see the New Earth now. And you know, we've talked about this several times. It's not some like frequency shift where all of a sudden we're on this new dimension or plane. I think, you know, it's just it's the return to the planet, which is the real revolution. Absolutely. And you had mentioned also this concept of boundaries and space. I love that. You know, I'm going to kind of go to a weird direction, but not. It's all connected. You brought up the PSYOP of Charlie being killed, and I don't have an opinion on who did it yet. I'm open to all of the narratives, but a boundary that I have is not associating with people who would celebrate a death like that.
Oh, 100%.
That's a boundary that I have. And if there was somebody in our community that did that, oh man, I don't know how we would address it. It's ironic because my brain goes to, well, we'd have this conversation, which is turning into a bit of a struggle session, it sounds like. But how do you enforce boundaries? And then how do you agree on what boundaries are? And ultimately, that's why I believe smaller communities are the best groupings for humans, because you're never going to have a consensus on anything. And so having to deal with fewer people agreeing, it reduces the number of conflicts that can occur. I'm getting a little sidetracked, I apologize, but let me try.
Yeah, good. No worries, man. Yeah, I'm following. Yeah,
bring it all full circle. I wasn't so saddened by the people celebrating. I knew it was going to happen. For me, it was actually, and this is how I know I'm growing, it reaffirmed within me that, okay, it's time to like get away from these people. And so I like that we're talking about taking action, buying land. I had one more thought. Oh, God damn it, I lost it. You're really good at this, though. So I'm sorry. Can I punt it back to you real quick while I remember my last thought?
Well, the number one thing, let's talk about the Charlie Kirk situation real quick, because when I was up at the FKN gathering last weekend, Chris and I did a show on it. And, one of the biggest things I said right now is our civilization, this human civilization, we are being tested right now. By what are we being tested by? Well, I do think there's what I would say, in my honest opinion and based on my experience, where we are on a very strange, almost like interdimensional reality TV show. The other thing I'm going to say is in 2012, and I use this analogy a lot, it wasn't the end of the world, it was the beginning of a new age. And this expansion pack was downloaded onto our reality in 2012, the Human Ascension expansion pack. And the reason why I say this is if you look at this whole situation before 2012, yes, it was still going on, but it was going on a much more subtle level. You had to really look for what was going on, and you could see it if you looked for it. But in 2012, what happened, I call it the cacophony of craziness, started to occur. This is when BLM, Antifa, all the divisions started kicking up like real high. A lot of the craziness that we're seeing today on the world stage started to really come to fruition. That was where the foundation for all of that was being laid back then. And so, yes, we're being tested, in my opinion, and we've had some tests that have come, and this was kind of a test on many levels, in my opinion. The first one, it was a litmus test for empathy, right? Despite whether what we're witnessing is fake and gay or real and hetero, having empathy for each other is a core foundational aspect of human nature. It's only been beaten out of us as of recently, because empathy was even a thing. Dude, I mean, empathy was there even during, I'd even say the earlier points of the 20th century, even going into the later points. Empathy was still kind of a thing, and it seems that as of lately, empathy is very important, dude. Having an understanding and a feeling for another human being. This is even what Jesus Christ said, love thy neighbor as you would love thyself. You know what I mean? So I think it was a litmus test for empathy, number one. Those who had empathy for Charlie passed the test. I certainly did. Don't get me wrong. I didn't agree with everything Charlie Kirk said. I commended the fact that he stood in he basically stood in the devil's pit and tried to have conversations with people. You know what I mean? He went to people who vehemently opposed him, and everything that he said, and he would try to start conversations. And dude, that's what kind of like you and I do. I mean, look at Kyle and Cody, look at all of that. So in that aspect, I have respect for him. I always had respect for him, and it made me almost sad in ways to see, somebody who had a family, who had children, now they don't have that father, they don't have that husband. So for me, that was my take on it, but it was. And then the people who celebrated his death failed the test. And we see a lot of people fail these tests in our general collective. So that was the first part of the test. I think the second part of the test was not turning to your neighbor, not turning to your fellow human being and looking at them with any kind of spite, because we now know the division that this is even ramped up the division even a little bit further. We know the division's illusion. We know it's Hegelian dialectic. We know that they are doing everything in their power to try and turn this timeline into a negative one. So that was the second test when it came to this situation. And I think there's a couple of other minor tests that were there. But this is the thing, man. We're being tested on a what I would call emotional, spiritual level, because when it comes to our conscious evolution that we are experiencing here on this planet, right here and there, the key integral emotional and conscious factors that are that are going to cause this evolution to further itself within us all, individually and on a subjective level, are all of these traits of love, compassion, acceptance, empathy, treating people with kindness, all of these things, because we can't graduate as a civilization, man, until we can hold these traits within us in a constant rate in the greater collective. I mean, you have to think about it, dude. I saw this joke, right? This is actually this guy I follow on Facebook. He ended up posting this. He goes, I bet this is going to happen when they do disclose extraterrestrials. The right is going to think it's demonic and they're not going to trust them, and the left is going to think it's this amazing scientific discovery, and they're going to look at the right like there's something wrong with them for thinking that it's demonic. But this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, man. We got to get past this. We got to graduate past this. So we're being tested 100% for sure. We are. And kind of diving back to what you were saying about the 5-year plan, I want to touch on that real quick. I think that's a very feasible thing. And ultimately, man, what this ascension, a new Earth is reclaiming what is rightfully ours. This Earth, okay? This Earth has been taken from us. We've almost kind of been subdued as a civilization. What subdued us? I have my theories, I have my speculations, but what we can objectively prove at this point in time, the parasite class, the invisible college, has subdued us, and it has been through the greater collective's free will. You can subconsciously give away your free will. That's not something a lot of people address. When people talk about free will, they talk about it from the conscious aspect. But no, there is a subconscious aspect of giving your free will away. And I mean, we see it all the time in this collective. The people who see what's going on and they know what's going on, but they turn a blind eye to it because they feel like there's nothing they can do about it. And that, in a way, if you are doing that, what you are doing is you are saying, I accept this. Okay. And you were saying, I accept what's happening to me. And ultimately, you don't have to accept. You cannot be okay with it. You don't have to turn a blind eye to it. I'm not saying you need to march up to your state capitol or the federal capitol with pitchforks and fucking torches and get ready to burn the place down. That's not what this revolution is going to be about. This revolution is going to be a siege, not an ambush. Okay. And what I mean by a siege is we are all going to, in our own ways, we are going to break away from this system. We are going to start moving our separate directions. And that is exactly what this false matrix reality survives off of, our focus and engagement. And when they see people start to pull away, that's when they drop these events like Charlie Kirk. That's when they drop these events like the not saying the Epstein files are real, even though we know they're real and they were spoken about as they were real up until Trump decided they were not real, and then Cash Patel and Bongino decided to say they were not real and lie to the face of millions of Americans. So yeah, man, and that I'm just gonna say I'm gonna leave it off at that and hand it back to you.
And I bet you the stream is just gonna get dumped because you said the name, and the name with the adjective together. I swear my videos get just totally suppressed when I do that. But
Sorry,
you
what you
are
said.
entirely correct, and this is no, we got a few people watching, so we're still good. Spiritual warfare. This was one of the hardest things for me to accept because I was never a full-blown atheist, but I was never religious, and so like this notion of spirituality is so nebulous and vague that if you cannot talk about it concretely, because I also have a love for philosophy and whatnot, it's such a difficult thing to talk about if you don't have a sort of personal experience with spirituality, with the divine, with the numinous. But I think that's because a lot of people they've been disconnected from it, from the various poisons, literal physical poisons, spiritual psychological poisons. We're just being poisoned on multiple levels. It's quite literally spiritual warfare. Something that once I accepted that's what's going on, I stopped trying to figure out who or what is doing this to us. Like a lot of people, like I don't want to say the word, but a lot of people will blame this country in the Middle East. It's the blank. And while there might be
You mean the
to
small
that,
country
it's
in the
not
Eastern Mediterranean.
Yes, there might be something there, but I think it's deeper than that. And then when you try to focus on excavating who at the ultimate level, it's pointless because you're going to get lost. It's when you can reduce it, or what I have done is, you reduce. And if you just want to be a warrior for good, you're going to be opposing whatever that top structure is. You don't need to have that top structure defined. You just need to have the internal personal mission of being a warrior for good. You had mentioned you had some psychonautical experiences that have sort of reaffirmed your identity in that sense. I too also enjoy the psychonautical endeavors. I very much hope to do more of that. But another note on that, the 5-year plan, let's just go all over places. Group activities, so that's connected to your New Earth Entertainment, and maybe this is, I see an integration here. New Earth Entertainment, super cool. I can already see like a YouTube channel or like a brand of some kind, but meditation, like guided planetary meditation. And I know that some of it exists on YouTube and whatnot, but when I say group activities, it's something where we can all log in together and just take that space, even if it's a 30-minute session, to where we are, just consciously trying to manifest goodness, intentional manifestation of goodness in the world. And that's something I personally need to do better at, is taking more time to just sit, I'm really guilty about this. I almost always have my headphones on. I almost always have music or a podcast or something going, and I know that's not good. I need to just sit in silence more. And when I do occasionally sit in silence and I'm able to just find my heart center, I can feel the field of energy sort of like flowing more freely. And then I'm like, okay, let's give that out to the world. So I hope in our community in 5 years, there's various group meditation activities and whatnot, but that's something we could do now. We could start doing now. But then also the last point that I'll sort of wrap up on is you had talked about how they have taken the planet from us, and they have. But when we return to the planet, it's for me, it's difficult but easy at the same time to embrace. We need to not acknowledge the power they think that they have over us
100%.
and embrace a martyr mentality without a defeatist mentality. So
Yes.
it's easy for me to say this now because I don't have children, I don't have a wife, but I die for this cause. And I know it's like, and I know the universe is going to test me in 15 years. I'm going to get tested and regret this moment. But that's what you need to embrace, and not from. I don't think the revolution is going to be, I think the revolution that the media, the propagandized media, has put in our heads. V for Vendetta is a great example. That's intentionally romanticized because that's like what they want. They want that
Absolutely.
social unrest and social destabilization. And I don't think that's the right path forward. I think I may have said this during our last chat, but I think the right path forward is actually to outlive them and to preserve the things like compassion and kindness and humanity that you mentioned earlier. So when the technocracy and all of the smart cities ultimately crumble and we can crawl out of the woods, I think the forest is going to be a lot where a lot of us hide, but
100%.
we're going to crawl out of the woods and then go back into the plains. And so, it's, yes, we have to be martyrs. And this is the last point that I'll talk about, random connected. On our property, or on my property that I'm manifesting, hopefully ours are close. Old people, that's not the politically correct way of saying it, but old people, if they don't have family and purpose, it's a really depressing life for them. If you're a widow or an old man and you don't have people in network and community, it really messes with your brain. I'm sure you probably in the audience know somebody who's just a little kooky because they don't have the proper social input. They don't have the proper purpose. And one thing I like is the idea of having at the entrance to the community, right? Like there will be only select entrances, but having a house almost like a sentry, like a guardhouse, quite literally. And if there's like an older guy, like an old 60, 70-year-old man who might not have a family or whatnot, it gives him purpose to know that he's sort of like the guard of the community. And we need to also find these roles for the elderly women in our lives. Like, my grandmas, they were the best. And so I also still am romanticizing this concept of protecting our community, but I think it's a reality that violence could be inflicted upon us for resisting. We hope and we pray that it doesn't happen, but we also just have to realize it's still a possibility. What do you think about that violence and the mentality of being a martyr, but also being a spiritually grounded person?
Well, the one thing I'm going to say is this, and this is a message that I've gotten consistently in my own evolution and in my own experiences. It is not that you are better or more special than anybody else, but if you continue to walk this middle path, and you continue to live in the light of the divine, you will be looked out for. And of course, like this is, some people might call this faith, but in my experience, I've developed what I would call something called knowing. And it is a very deep feeling and knowing within me, knowing that we will be looked out for and we will be kept safe. And I'm going to touch on what you said about the elderly in the community. Then I'm going to kind of hop back to what you said in the beginning about spirituality. No, and this is the thing is those elderly people, they need us, man, especially if they don't have families still around or they're very far removed from our families. And I would be honored and 200% in to assist. because these are our elders, man, especially the ones who are down with New Earth frequency, and they've been living this. And there's people who woke up before me, man. Like, I talk about how I woke up in 2008, man. There's people who woke up in 9/11. There's people who woke up during Waco. There's people who woke up in 93 at the World Trade Center. There's even people who woke up with Kennedy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of these other events that occurred throughout time. And, these are our elders, man. We have to respect them. We have to cherish them. We have to help them. Because they laid the foundation for us to be where we're at least today. So I completely agree with you on that, man. That's something and like you were saying about grandmas, dude, like, yeah, absolutely, man. I loved both of my grandmothers. They were both amazing, amazing grandmas. And, and they deserve the help and the respect too. And that is something I would definitely set up and assist with in our community. I would make sure they had everything they need. I would take care of their yards for them. I would help around their houses, because ultimately this is about giving back, man. It's about family. We are human family here, and especially in this community, we all are a family. And I'm not saying we don't have some dysfunctional members. We definitely do. But that's how I've always seen it. That's why I've been so big on us, getting over these petty things we argue about online, and actually grouping together and understanding, like, look, we are being faced with this situation. Okay. We are at this fork in the road. I don't care if you think the earth is fucking flat, square, eggplant shaped, banana shaped. I don't give a damn what religion you choose. Do you like freedom? Do you want to live a spiritual way of life? Do you want to break away from this system and start something new? That's what I care about. Okay. I don't care we can argue about the shape of the earth all fucking day long after we do this. Okay. I'll even sit there and I'll set up a debate station in the community, and we can argue about whether the earth is flat or round. Okay. But, that's ultimately why the stance I've always had, dude. Ever since we've gotten together and we've become friends and you've been listening to me, I've always had this stance, and I will continue to have this stance, because this is the mentality that we need to have right now. And, I know it's easier said than done. Of course, the internet is a fucked up place, and don't get me wrong, I use it, but, these arguments that are happening, a lot of them aren't even coming from real people, man. We got bots and comment farms now that are causing a lot of the dysfunction on social media. So this person you might be arguing with might not even be a real fucking person. You know what I mean? So that's something to consider, before somebody comes off a freaking rude to you online. That might not be a real person, man. That might be a bot. So this is what one of their techniques, the Parasite class, is kind of throwing in to try and divide us up more and muddy the waters even more. But I'll go back to what you were saying about spirituality and wrapping your head around it. It's kind of funny. As of lately, I found a really good way to help people kind of understand. And this actually came across recently. So when we're talking spirituality, there is a spiritual nature to this existence. And the reason being is you have two things that occur in this existence. You have organization and adaptation. Right? Organization and adaptation cannot occur unless something is aware that something needs to be organized, and that something is aware that an adaptation needs to take place. So, I mean, you look at this existence, dude, on how freakishly organized it is, the self-similarity on all scales, same mathematical ratios that exist from the micro to the macro. Just by chance, the moon happened to just be the right size and be in the right place to cause a solar eclipse, around the planet Earth. I mean, you look at how if you believe in space, I think we're in a dimensional realm at this point, but that's just my take. But if you believe in space, even the planets make sacred geometry in their orbits, dude. Like, we have a freakish level of organization occurring in this existence. And something cannot be organized unless something is aware that something needs to be organized. You don't just go into your room, throw all of your clothes up in the air, and by coincidence and by chance, they all land perfectly. Your socks land perfectly in the drawer right where they need to go. Your boxers, your pants, your shirts, whatever it is, just by coincidence and by chance, all land perfectly in their drawers because you threw them up in the air in chaos theory, right? No, you have to be, hey, this needs to be organized. So you had the conscious intent and saw something that was chaos and decided to organize it. So that's the first thing. Organization cannot happen unless there is conscious awareness of a need to organize. That's number one. Adaptation would be the second thing. Now, adaptation cannot occur unless you are consciously aware that you need to adapt to something. And you look at things like entropy. You look at so many different aspects of how this exists. This universe adapts and grows and expands. Okay, I mean, you look at. I mean, even dude, I'm not even gonna lie. Even a rock adapts to its environment. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a big question that's been coming up very recently. Is well, if everything. I mean, Kyle and Cody talked with me about that when they were on the show. They were like, well, is a rock conscious? And I kind of explained it to them. And it's like, well, dude, you got to think of it this way. If your consciousness is creating reality, that rock is technically an extension of your consciousness. So yes, because you are visually observing that rock and you are looking at it, that is an extension of your consciousness. But adaptation cannot occur unless you are conscious of something that you need to adapt to. Adaptation does not happen unconsciously. So these are the two key factors that we can kind of talk to with anybody about and kind of showcase to them that there is some kind of design, at least on a bare minimum level, that is occurring here in this existence, because you cannot have adaptation and organization without consciousness. That just cannot be. I mean, even from a logical standpoint, dude, and this is a logical thing that I'm talking about. Like, you can't adapt something to adapt if you're unaware that you need to adapt. You know, you can't organize if you're not aware that you need to organize. So that's kind of how I get people to kind of start wrapping their heads at this point around the fact that there is a spiritual nature to this existence. And these are two kind of key factors, that really stand out to me when it comes to, is there a God? Is there something here? Is there a divine creator? Is there a divine designer to this existence? Yes, there is. And you can see that through adaptation and organization. So the second thing you were talking about was psychonaut experiences, psychedelics, and stuff like that too. So before I kind of go off on what I'm going to say about this is the one thing I'm going to say. So this is scientifically substantiated at this point. Okay, you can go look at these studies. You can go look at these articles. They're available on NIH. They're available on PubMed, all of those other sites too. So DMT, our endogenous DMT that we make inside of ourselves, it actually works with serotonin. They work synergistically to modulate how you perceive your physical reality. They work together on how they do this. And so that brings up the question that if you increase your DMT levels beyond baseline, are you perceiving more of reality? And I think absolutely. And if we look at all of these psychedelic and entheogenic plants that exist, they all have a similar molecular backbone to DMT. They even the lysergamides, if you look at which are LSD, which isn't technically a tryptamine like DMT, if you look at its molecular backbone, it looks like a key to DMT. Like all of these entheogenic medicines have the same receptor site responses, the same molecular backbone. They might have different little other compounds that are added on that makes them uniquely their own. But if you look at the bare minimum molecular backbone of these entheogenic substances, they all are DMT. They activate DMT. So, I mean, that's why I do these entheogenic experiences. That's why I undergo and I kind of push myself in these experiences, because I do believe you are perceiving a broader spectrum of reality at this point. And this is the thing, man. If consciousness is the prima materia of this existence, anything that alters it is going to be a form of technology. All right. So I'm a believer that we need to stop looking at these psychedelic plants as drugs. Okay. They're not. They're a form of technology that has been left here for us. By whom? That's up to speculation. But they're a form of tech that has been left here by us for us to utilize to expand ourselves. So that and the experience I had past weekend, I kind of saw my higher self, and my higher self and I merged. And when I saw what my higher self was, I was actually kind of really astonished that I am this very intense, spiritual, angelic like being than the person that is sitting here talking to you on this show is an emanation of that being. And I kind of experienced that, like I became that being temporarily. The emanation dissipated that's sitting in front of you, and I became that being. And I felt my trueness, my wholeness in that state. And so that is another reason why, when people undergo these psychedelic experiences and they ingest an entheogenic medicine, it's not a hallucination and it's not a fake experience. It is a very real place you are going to, a very real frequency that you are going to. It is just temporary. And so you can definitely achieve this naturally. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Kundalini yoga practitioner. I cultivate my natural DMT all the time. So you don't have to go the road of psychedelics, but I'm here to tell you that these tools are a type of technology. They're not a drug. And I will leave it at that, man. I'll bounce it back to you.
No, I completely agree. I like their tools, and you use different tools in your tool belt for different jobs, and so people at different points in their life could benefit from different therapeutics. I have a tab of acid I've been holding on to for like a year or two. But I've done acid before, and I quite love acid. Acid and
so do I.
Is like something that I want to. At some point I want to do like acid with people, and then one of the rooms that we're gonna have, it's gonna have kittens in it, because once you hit a certain vibration and you get a cat on your chest purring, it's just like the biggest amount of love radiation. It's the freaking best. And I did a round of the ketamine therapy like 2 years ago, and it was very subtle but significant for me. I think it was like 5 weeks or 5 sessions. You do a little thing, it's only an hour or two, but it just, I feel like, had a very linear and effect even after the treatments for months, and even 2 years later. I'm thankful that I got to do that. And so
absolutely, man.
If you've never had a psychedelic experience, I would highly recommend it in a safe 100%. Setting. Do so safely and pursue so safely. But what I struggle with that's frustrating is, how do you take back the knowledge, the wisdom, the sensations that are more than just a body sensation, that there's information in what's flowing through you. And then how do you go and tell, like, I think of someone I'm a big fan of, is Stefan Molyneux. Even though he would not approve of my lifestyle, he's a better man than I, and I acknowledge that. But he would judge the shit out of me for trying to talk about like my LSD trip, if I were to have a trip and then have notes, and he'd be like, well, that's just, drug induced nonsense. And I still love him, even though he would judge me. But there's something mystical to them. But with mysticism, the middle road, as you mentioned earlier, You got to walk that middle road. So for me, you know, I literally haven't done a psychedelic in probably like 2 years. I need to be better about that, but that's just how my life's been. You know, I think there'll be a phase where I do a lot, you know, for a little bit, and that's how it should be in your life, you know, sort of phases and tools for a purpose, not just the purpose of being distracted or the purpose of avoiding reality. Something you said that I've been struggling with, you mentioned faith or knowing. I,
Mhm.
I I have internal resentment. I have internal resentment around that notion. And I'll give an example, a perfect example, something that I need to work through. I live in my van, right? And I stress that if something significant or serious happened to my van, it's like, what do I do if it's in the shop for a week? Can I afford the repairs? And then where do I live for that week or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
it's been an exercise from the universe to just faith. I've been telling myself quite literally, Andrew, you just have to have faith. And I've made it that far, but then there's a battle, there's a resistance where I'm like, it's hubris almost to me to just think that everything's going to be okay. How dare you be so arrogant to just think? And this is probably very deep subconscious psychological programming around not feeling worthy and not feeling loved and whatnot. But that's what goes through my brain. It's like, how dare you be so arrogant to think that everything is going to be okay? I'm battling that right now. And so I can see the other side of just letting go and believing, but I haven't fully let go yet. And I think,
I understand.
you know, I just wanted to share that. Probably a lot of people have that battle. I bet even you, I bet
Oh,
probably
yeah.
still struggle a little.
Well, what happened to me last weekend, because I'm going to be honest, it definitely it reinforced my trust in the divine very much so, almost to a point where it's unshakable. But I understand where you're coming from, you know, and a lot of that is, at least in my opinion, it's due to things we've experienced in our life. And here's the thing about a lot of us in the spiritual and the anarchist communities, man. We've seen the deepest, darkest depths of this existence and what it has to offer. We, on an individual level and collectively, you know, we've all gone through some very deepest depths of darkness. But my one thing that I say to a lot of people, you know, ultimately this is going to be a hard pill to swallow, but we chose a lot of what happened to us. We did, because of the spiritual alchemy that would occur within us, that would lead us to where, look at where you are, man, right now. Like, I mean, look at where you are. And like, even though like you on the inside might not feel like you're where you want to be just yet, but here I am, another person looking at you, and I'm telling you, look at what you're doing right now, dude. Look at where all of this has led you towards. Look at these realizations you're having. Look at, dude, like, and you've recently made some amazing changes with your life. You know, you understood that you had to, you know, make somewhat of a sacrifice to get to where you need to be in a comfortable place. Um, and look at, and I say that to everybody who struggles with that, because I still know a lot of spiritual people who struggle with this. You know what I mean? In that knowing, in that trust in the unknown and the divine. But I say to every single one of those people, look at where you are today. Okay, look at, and this is the thing, we are hyper conditioned as a civilization, man, to look at the negative. I mean, I even use this example a lot. Like, let's take these two scenarios, right? Let's say I'm driving to work, some dude cuts me off and flips me off, right? And fucking drives away. And I go into work and I tell my coworkers, I'm like, man, you wouldn't believe what fucking happened to me today, dude, on the way to work. This dude cut me off and he flipped me off and he was a dick. And then everybody's gonna start rallying around you, going, yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. He shouldn't have fucking done that. We as humans, we have been conditioned to gravitate towards a negative pattern of thinking. And this has been done societally. This has been done by our parents. That's been called being realistic. It's been called It has so many different names. Shame, have you no shame, things like that. So we have been conditioned to fixate on heavily fixate and hyperfixate on the negative aspects of ourselves, this society, and other things. So that's where we have to have honesty with ourselves, and we have to have awareness with ourselves to dial it back and actually look at the positive that's actually happening right in front of our eyes that's being clouded by the negative. And it takes some work to undo this, man. I mean, even I'm not perfect. I still have instances where I gravitate towards negative thought patterns occasionally, but I have awareness now where I catch that and I'm like, listen, dude, like that's just your negative mind kicking in and trying to fucking make a mountain out of a molehill here. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, man, this is the biggest thing I say to everybody. If you are doing right by yourself, your loved ones, and other human beings, you have absolutely nothing to fucking fear in this world. That's how the divine works. If you are being a source of light here in any way, shape, or form, you don't have anything to fear. Being realistic doesn't mean being negative. It doesn't mean being afraid. You can be realistic and objective and not be negative and afraid. So, that's something, that's a deep embedded conditioning, man, within the collective consciousness itself. It's what's happened to us as a civilization here. And so we have been conditioned to gravitate towards these negative thought patterns, and this will change that for you, man. Is if even and anybody who's listening right now is have that awareness of this now. I just told you what's going on. Have this awareness when you walk into your everyday life after this conversation, after this show's over. Be like, all right, tomorrow I'm gonna have awareness. I'm gonna like really focus on my thoughts and where they go. And when you start to see those negative thought patterns like start to kind of take hold of you, remember what I just said right now. Dial it back. Be like, well, listen, dude, I mean, like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, like I said. So it's going to take work, but ultimately, man, what else is going to do that? Like I was saying, I'll digress to what I was talking about earlier. All of these people who struggle with this, I look at where they are in their lives and their stories and where they've come from, and they are at their peak level in their fucking life. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're doing awesome. They're doing great. Like, their experiences like push them to a point where they're touching the lives of others, where they're helping people. Dude, you help people, man. Like, and don't ever negate that. You help people. Okay. And all of that. And that's what I tell them. I'm like, look at where you are now, dude. Like, look at what you're doing. Like, do you think all of that came to be just by accident? This is the thing about it too, man, is this is a learning ground, and these negative experiences, that we have in this trauma, we're supposed to learn and grow from it. We're not supposed to internalize it in our being. We're not supposed to hold it in. We're supposed to release it. We're supposed to have this understanding, but this is another understanding that's been taken from us. One thing, so yeah, how everything's okay. That's one way of doing it. Everything really is okay, man. It really is. And it's not done out of arrogance with me. When you get a glimpse of the raw, unfiltered truth and you sit in it, at that point in time that everything's going to be okay. So one of the things I want to talk about that you touched on earlier was, how do you take back these realizations from psychedelics? How do you kind of, well, the number one thing I'll say about that is the integration process. That's actually a very important thing when you do psychedelics. Like I was telling you, I'm taking a break this weekend, man, because I have to I have to still kind of integrate what happened to me and kind of, go through it all. But that's why one thing I tell about people is, if you have a very profound experience and you have a very profound realization during these psychedelic experiences, as much as you might want to repeat the experience, don't. Take a few months, journal it. it. Start writing it down. Okay, start writing that. And that's why, honestly, a lot of times when I'm in these states, dude, I'll have a notebook, or I'll like open up my phone to my notepad app and I'll type some stuff in that happened or that I experienced. And like, like it might be hard to write, don't get me wrong, but draw a picture then, or something that's going to like, that's going to take you back to that. It's that energetic connection to the experience. It can be written word. It can be a drawing that you did, or it can even be the song that was playing that you had on YouTube or whatever while you were having that experience. It's called the energetic connection to it. And when you establish this energetic connection to the realization that you had in the experience, what happens is it starts to integrate yourself into your physical principle, your physical body and your physical being. And so this is how you take remember these realizations. This is how you remember this knowing, is you establish an energetic connection to what happened in that experience, whether it be through writing, whether it be through drawing, whether it be through listening to that song you were listening to while it happened, or even going to the place you were when it happened. If you were out in nature, or if you were in your basement, like 9 times out of 10 with me, I like doing it in nature though too. And, or you were at a park, go back to that place, start journaling. You're establishing that energetic connection with something in a different frequency, but you're bringing it back to the physical frequency that you're currently in. And now what will happen through this process, as you become more experienced with the psychedelic medicines, is you will find the integration process comes easier. And even though you're in ego death, you somehow, because you've done this integration process, you somehow have still a tiny speck of your wits that you carry with you into that higher dimensional frequency. And that's something you develop with experience and time, because you are actually establishing this energetic connection through the journaling, the drawing, the music, the places, and all of those things. So that's what will happen as soon as you get to a more experienced level with the medicine. But at first, what you want to do is you want to do that journaling and the drawing and the music and the places. So that's how you bring back that information, is you establish that connection here in the physical, by writing it, drawing it, music, etc. And what you were talking about, the middle path, I kind of want to dive on that real quick, and then I'll hand it back to you. The middle path is the path that we all should be walking on, in my opinion. It's actually the most demonized path in this collective civilization, because, and this is the thing, guys, whatever they demonize, we've learned that there's something to what they demonize, what they silence, what they don't want you to look at. Okay, everybody in this community knows that. This is kind of where we got our beginnings, right? I mean, the conspiracies, like, everything that was silenced. We started listening to those who were silenced. We started listening to those who were demonized, because we know if that the parasite class and our government and the invisible college are demonizing this individual or demonizing this concept, there's a reason they're demonizing it. So you look at the two acceptable routes right now in society when it comes to spirituality in the collective consensual society. You have nihilistic atheism. That's completely acceptable. You can be a nihilistic atheist all day long, not believe in God, believe this existence is pointless, coincidence, and because of that, it doesn't matter how you treat people or how you conduct yourself in this world. So that is completely acceptable when it comes to collective society. And the other hard end that's completely acceptable is a dogmatic fundamentalism. Okay, like you can be a dogmatic Christian, you can be a dogmatic this. That's completely fine. That's okay. We might give you some shit for being that way, but ultimately the government, the parasite class, they don't mind you being a dogmatic fundamentalist, because that's strictly exoteric. You're cutting off your connection to the inside, and that is truly where the divine is, and you're giving your power away. So they're okay with that. They don't mind. They might kind of talk some smack about it in the media just to make the nihilistic atheism look a little bit better, because that's the real road they want you to take. But ultimately, if you take the dogmatic fundamentalist path, they're okay with that too, because you're giving your fucking power away. But and then you have the middle path, which is demonized. I was actually talking with my guest last week about this show. If you noticed, a lot of horror movies, dude, they demonize the esoteric. They demonize esoteric concepts. I was bringing up the revamp of I Know What You Did Last Summer and how they find this tarot deck, and because they started playing with the tarot deck, all of them start to get murdered. Like, you know what I mean? So this is they do it through this symbolism. They don't want you looking down the middle path, because in my opinion, the middle path is Christ. It's a foundation in Christ energy. And they do, even on a level, they fear Christ, not because of Jesus Christ himself. They fear the energy because it is the awakening energy. It is the revealing energy. It is the energy that calls us back to home, our true nature. Okay. And that's I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's the middle path, man. The middle path is the Hieros Gamos. It is the unification. It is walking and not being attached to the illusion that is right in front of you.
Sorry about that. I had someone come talk to me real quick, but I was still following.
No, you're all good. Yeah, you're all good. Yeah.
Path, the Christ consciousness path. I've had a recent thought on, because I love to analyze history and philosophy and sociology, and because it's all connected, psychology, it's all connected to the human experience. And I've been just thinking about the Bible from vertically. I don't know why, but starting at Old Testament and moving downward. And then when you get to like Jesus, there's like this just forking of thought in the world. I believe Jesus was revolutionary. I really do. And I'm trying to construct an argument for that. And it's very much centered around forgiveness.
Absolutely.
Because the Bible, before the Old Testament, it's very, very fire and brimstone. And then there's the New Testament, which is a little bit softer. And then when you fork out, that's where the fork comes in. There's more than just the New Testament. There's all these scrolls and things that they don't quite know who wrote it and what's valid and everything. But yet still there's this notion of a Gnostic Jesus. And I think that Gnostic Jesus that brought forgiveness to the world literally altered the trajectory of humanity, which is why
100%
so hated in the world. And I'm not a Christian. I don't want to like support Christianity because the structure of the church is bad. But that like bifurcation or that trajectory alteration, it was phenomenal for humanity. Because we do have a very barbaric past, especially. I won't get nope. Sorry, I want to just go on a different path real quick. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. No, go ahead, man.
Path and Jesus. I think I have still some resentment. Not resentment's not the right word, but I think it's kind of cliche. Still staying on spirituality. I'm a cliche. My path has paralleled Russell Brand's so much, and I don't like it. So I have this request of you. If you ever see me wearing necklaces and bracelets and whatnot, you need to call me out, because that's when you know I've gone too far. Like, I like my hair, I like my beard, I like being shoeless and whatnot. But if I start having like
getting baptized,
just call me out, because no, thank you.
I see you getting baptized. I'm gonna have to come give you a visit. Not that I would hate that. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, because I think baptism is a little bit. The original concept of baptism is outside of Christianity a little bit. There was many different spiritualities that had kind of a similar form of baptism, or similar kind of like dedication. But continue. No, I just wanted to say that.
No, and then because I think we had started, I was talking about how I'm struggling still with faith.
Mhm.
I in exploring that, I've been unpacking the scarcity mindset. That's a term that the conscious community uses because it's so true. Like our culture, our society, our planet it's inundated with that scarcity mindset. This notion that we do not have enough, which is the exact opposite of reality. We have more than enough if we did not have the parasite class just sucking away from us and controlling us. And I'm a big fan of Buckminster Fuller. He is
Oh yeah,
a futurist, inventor.
vector
You know,
equilibrium. Yeah.
he created this notion of he created what he called artifacts, and so they weren't inventions in his mind. They were things that would help humanity. He was so focused on helping humanity, and this was 50 years ago, where he was throwing out hundreds of ideas and whatnot, and he would get just all kinds of crazy patents, not because he wanted to get rich, but because he just wanted to help the world. And I see that as something we can also do, is create these artifacts of humanity to help the world. And one of them, oh gosh dang it, this I'm getting a little discombobulated. I apologize. I'm trying to
No,
talk
no,
about
you take your
the
time. All
scarcity
good. Yeah.
mindset, but then also
Yeah. No. Well,
um,
what it is
okay,
it is. There's two illusions at this point. There's two big illusions we have to tear down. At least we don't have to tear it really down within our conscious community, because a lot of people in this conscious community they are aware of these two illusions. But as far as the general collective, the way that we break that down is we're going to have to lead by example and show them that it's fake. I mean, honestly, because you look at how the general collective, what they deem as factual information, it has to come from a source of authority. You and I are both, maybe in our communities we can be somewhat of an authority, but when it comes to the general collective, we're nobodies. We're Joe Schmoes, dude. And those two illusions are scarcity and division. Those are the two of the key things the parasite class uses to get the end result that they're having right now. They use scarcity, right, to put people out of creator mode and being a creator in creation, and it puts them into survival mode at that point, which you become a byproduct of creation. So that's the first thing that they do is they give this scarcity illusion. And guys, there's abundance everywhere. Like I mean, even in the Bible, it said, God said if we're going by the canonical version of it, God said, "Be fruitful and multiply upon the earth." Said that all of the land and the animals are in abundance and for you. Okay, and that doesn't mean don't have respect towards the land and animals. Absolutely cherish it and treat it with respect, but understand that there's an abundance here for us. So that is the first illusion, is the scarcity. And then because people are in survival mindset, right, that puts you in a lower frequency when you enter out of creator mode into survival mindset. Because you're in that state of survival, you're operating on a what I would call a conscious autopilot mode at that point, because you have almost in a way subconsciously relinquished yourself of your power, your creator power, due to this scarcity illusion. And that's where the division comes in. Now we got everybody thinking everything is scarce. So now we divide them, right? We divide them amongst themselves and we make it every man for themselves. Fuck community. Just take care of you and yourself. And and all of that. So, and that's where the division comes in, and it's just almost like the 1-2 punch that led us to where we are today. And that's why, the only way we are going to rid our greater collective of these two illusions is through leading by example, right? Of course, a lot of us in our earlier stages of awakening, yes, especially me, I talk about this on my show all the time. I was on the fucking rooftop with a megaphone. Do you know there's fluoride in your water? Do you know our currency is fake? Do you know 9/11 was an inside job? I tried to drill it into people, man. I was Paul revering it. Okay. Like I would intentionally start arguments with people to try and make them think. But if there's something about the human condition, of course, as cliche, you were talking cliches earlier, but something that is very cliche in and of itself, but it rings true with what I'm just saying, is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. However, you can show that horse how awesome that water is, though. You can show. That doesn't mean it's going to drink, but you can show that horse how awesome the water is. And eventually, if you continue to show that horse how awesome this water is, eventually curiosity is going to get to it and it's going to want to drink the water. And then eventually when it drinks that water, it's going to look at you and be like, man, this is some damn good water. You were right all along. And then you're going to go, yeah, right. Like it is. It's pretty good. It's nice and cold, refreshing, all those things. So that's ultimately the phase we're at is, we've led the horses to water at this point. We've led the general collective has many different things they can look at. And and that's one thing Kyle and Cody kind of hit home hard on is all of this corruption and all of this malevolence is available on the public record. Like you can go look this shit up. Like it is there. It's free for everybody to see. So like that's one thing they are right about in that there is a lot of it available on public record. But because people don't read public record and they take the government's word at face value, and they believe the stories at face value, nobody ever looks any deeper. So we're at the point where, we're at the point where we need to show the horses how awesome the water is. So how do we do that? We do it by leading by example. It is hard to discredit people who are living in alignment with the values and the principles that they speak of. It is very hard to discredit people who are laughing and living a joyful life. It's very, very hard to discredit those people, man. So like that's the thing. That's where even on my talk on Liberty on the Rocks, which I'm still waiting on their version of it. I wish I recorded it, but freaking, I got to get with Josh. I think he just forgot about it, but see, this is the thing is even during that conversation, I don't understand why this is such a hard concept for people to wrap their minds around still. And that's why I do think that there's still people in our community who still somewhere deep in their subconscious think that what's going on here is somewhat salvageable. And it's not salvageable. And the quicker that we come to this realization, the more that we can start progress. I've honestly, one of the side things I've done too, dude, and I want you on board with this too, is I'm sitting down with some people and we're going to start working out some real-time solutions for a system that we can start to implement and put into effect now within our community that could potentially be a foundation for what comes after this. Because I feel the collective fear within me when I say the system is unsalvageable. Like I'm a collective empath in that sense. And when I say that word immediately within my heart center, I feel this fear and this uncertainty from the collective energy because we've trauma bonded with Stockholm syndrome at this point. That is what the general collective has done. We've trauma bonded with Stockholm syndrome. And, because it's like it is a trauma bond. like straight up. I mean, you look at people will make a world of excuses for the government, but they won't give the same excuses or the same kind of acceptance or forgiveness to their fucking neighbor. Okay. And that's like a key thing right there, dude. The guy who puts his pants on the same as you every day, the guy who goes and works a job like you every day, the guy who's got a family like you every day gets less fucking leeway than these parasites that are spiritually draining the entire collective. So like that's a fucking, that's a red flag, man. That's not good. Okay. Like, and so this is why I'll digress, and I'll end it off with this. It's ultimately going to be done by leading by example, destroying these two illusions. And eventually what will happen is, if enough people see this big group of people who are just having an amazing life, having a great community. They brought back community bonfires, community gatherings. They're showing love for their neighbor. They're showing love for one another. And it's this great, awesome thing. Eventually, people are going to kind of start to look towards the false matrix system. And they're going to be like, why the hell am I still fucking participating in this? Look at all those people over there, dude. They're fucking having a great time. They're all hanging out. They're supporting each other. There's music. There's comedy. There's art. There's all of this stuff that has been bastardized and basically fucking stolen from us. That there's a new renaissance that's occurring. Dude, even me, if I were to try and like emulate myself at this point as somebody who's not aware, I still have fucking common sense, dude. I'm going to look at those people over there having a fucking amazing time and living a great life. And I'm going to be like, dude, what are they doing? I want to be on that. So.
Thank you for all of that. I want to try and wrap all of this up. I think I've got it. This was titled
no worries,
Spiritual Warfare, Spiritual Leadership. I feel like I'm at this place. I'm at a shifting the scarcity and division mindset, and I'm shifting into co-creator mode. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm on my way. And I think a lot of people are where I'm at. A lot of people are ahead of me, and a lot of people are behind me. And this conversation was exactly what I had wanted to showcase, and that was you being a spiritual leader, guiding me through some of the things that I've been dealing with. So, for example, the faith thing, I didn't have that on an agenda to talk to you about, but when it came up and getting able to talk that out and just be honest about the fact that I have these subconscious psychological blocks, that for me, it gave it a new layer for me to assess. And it just feels good to get that out, because that's something that it's in my head that, like, it's not a good thing to just have such self-doubt. It's not good. And so getting it out was really nice.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad I can help you with that. Yeah.
You had mentioned building a system. You had mentioned building a system for like what's after the collapse. This idea has been in my head for a very long time. This concept of the articles of humanity, because there should be, or it would be nice if there was some sort of generally agreed upon basis or set of principles that we could form a foundation of society on. I think there's a gentleman, there's Stefan Molyneux, wrote Universally Preferable Behavior. That's a good book. It's a good idea. But, we need something simple, short, concise. And again, ultimately, not everybody's going to agree on it, but to have a general basis of morality and ethics and how to guide human behavior, it would be good. Even if it's just for our own community, which, hey, maybe that's where we start, is like, okay, if you want to live in our community, here's our articles of humanity, sort of things you have to abide by. And they're pretty self-explanatory, not self-explanatory, but not controversial. And we don't even have to get into it at this current moment, because I really have to go pee. So I'm going to wrap up this conversation.
No, you're all good. And I'm just gonna say this real quick, man. think you're onto something with that. I just wrote that down. I won't elaborate on more because I know you got to go pee, but that can definitely work, and that's going in my idea bin. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I just wrote that down.
Awesome. I look forward to working it out more with you, and I'm really excited that we're stepping away from the old paradigm into the new paradigm, and that we're building action plans. I write music. It's not something I've ever bragged about or talked about because it's never something I've ever done to fruition. I've never written it and had someone perform a song, but it's something that I want to do. And so if you're out there in the audience, art is just so needed right now. Art is catharsis. Art is revolution. Art is resistance. Art can be so much. And, I want to talk to you offline more about the New Earth. What did you call it? New Earth Entertainment. We should start.
Your PSYOP free entertainment.
And I'm rambling still.
No, you're all good, man.
So yeah, send Steven a message. Send me a message. Let's start actually doing this. Let's take action. That was all I had. I'll let you. Do you have any other final notes or words?
So my final notes, so you guys, you can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network, www.forbiddenknowledge.news. I'm part of the network with Chris Matthew, Ryder Lee, Charlie Robinson, all of them. You can find me also on Rumble and YouTube under BGcast if you want to catch my live shows or my video podcasts. But then I'm also available on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Rockfin, all of those as well. And I'm available on all social media, Facebook, BGcast, IG at BG2_cast, on X, which I'm most active on, at BG3_cast. And yeah, drop me a line, man. Like I said, I'm calling all of the conscious creators out there, whether you do music, whether you do art, whether you do film, whether you're a comedian, or whether you build things, it doesn't matter. Now's the time. And ultimately, Andrew, what I'm going to leave this off on with is this, kind of like what I said earlier in the show. We all have to find a way in this community. Okay. And like I said, the flat earth thing, that's why I hit that, because that seems to be one of the biggest trigger points when it comes to dividing people in our community. Oh, you believe the earth's flat? You're fucking stupid. But dude, in the grand scheme of things, of what we're looking at right now, does that fucking matter? Does it matter? And I'm going to be 100% honest. If that matters that much to you, you're being fucking petty and your heart isn't all the way in this. And that's I'm gonna call it like it is, because right now that's what we need to do. We need to set aside these stupid differences that we have within each other in this community, and we need to look at what we're looking at right now and be like, listen, I might not agree with you all the way, you might not agree with me all the way, but our core principles and values are the same. We resonate on those things. And that's where we need to take this, and we need to find a common ground, and we need to move forward. The time for talking is done. The time for doing has begun. Okay. So anything you can bring to the table, anything, whether you can grow food, whether you have livestock, whether you make bread, cheese, you can play music. Like I said, anything you can bring to the table is appreciated and cherished here. Okay. It's all going to have its place. It's all going to have a part in what is coming. Okay. So that would be my ultimate message for everybody, is the time for talking is done. The time for doing is started. And we have to understand we are family here. We only have each other. And the ones of us who see what's right in front of us, we have to work together. And I'll leave it at that.
Make sure you send me links. I'll have all the links in the description.
Yeah, I'll send you everything.
Follow Steven and his journey. Okay. Thank you everyone very much. You have a good one. Peace.